Good morning, and thank you so much for inviting me to join you today. This is a quote. As you can see, that's a U.S. undergraduate student, a female, age 19. What I like to do when I talk about our user behavior studies is to actually read quotes to you. Because if I just tell you some of these things, you probably wouldn't believe it. And so I will try to read as many as I can today. I've asked that they cut me off because I could go on forever. I should probably also tell you that we started asking some of these same questions in 2005. And so in a way, we have a longitudinal study. We've talked to individuals, English language, so US, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. And I've been trying to pull all of this together. Right now I'm involved in two studies that are, one is funded by the US, the Institute for Museum and Library Services, looking at virtual reference services and social question and answer sites, and see how we can learn from each other and possibly collaborate. The second study is funded by JISC, Oxford University, OCLC, and the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. And we are following individuals for 3 years, and we are in our, going into our third year. And so I will draw from these studies, as well as another report that we did for JISC, looking at 10 different user behavior studies. And so I will try to pull this all together for you in a very quick amount of time. I always have too many slides as well. And if you've heard me speak before, I've always said when I travel with my husband, he always says, hurry up, take the photo. When you get home, you can look at them. And so what we're going to do today is we'll have these available to you. I have all the notes, so if I skip anything, you'll be able to go back. This is another quote from a US university student, female, age 19. And she just, and this comes up quite often, and I'm not going to actually read every quote to you that is on the slide. But another UK graduate student, female, age 23, said she always went to Google first, and I asked her why. And she said, because Google is reliable and fast. Okay, it used to be that the user built the workflow around the library. Now we must build our services around the user's workflow. It used to be that resources were scarce. Attention was abundant. Libraries were the only game in town. Today, attention is scarce and resources are abundant. Lorcan Dempsey talks about the inside-out library, and some of you may have read his paper on this. And he talks about the need for the local infrastructure, or the local, that this need for the local infrastructure or the local assembly of materials, so this collection of materials as having declined and continuing to decline. And the library is an institution scale where many of its users operate at a network scale. And so he calls this that inside-out library. So the library is an actor of research and learning environments of its users. And I think that's something that we should really start to think about. Something that draws on this is a US graduate student, male, age 25. And he says, it's so much easier to just strain to find something on the internet than to drive to the library. A US undergraduate student, female, age 19, said, I have better things to do than go drive all the way to the library when I can just sit at home and type it into my computer. This is pretty obvious, I think, to all of us. It's gone from local to global. linear to linked. Yes, I couldn't give a presentation without talking about linked data. And I think yesterday it was Jill Emery who said that, catalogers are needed more now than ever. And that's something I've been saying, not just because I'm employed by OCLC, but because I truly believe that. But I do think that the way catalogers display the information that they're collecting and present it to users has to change. Those things have to change. And of course, we're going from print to digital. I don't have to tell all of you about the challenges that you're facing today. The budget cuts, they say they're high retirement rates. I'm not sure. Hiring freezes we're feeling quite a bit in the US, although it's starting to open up a bit. I think this presents some great opportunities for us. And I think we need to first understand how and why and under what circumstances individuals use systems and services. I think this is a great time for us. As Henry Kissinger said, a diamond is a chunk of coal made good under pressure. No news here, right? Convenience is king. The thing is, convenience changes with the situation and the context. And so what can be convenient this minute for me may not be convenient for me later this evening. And that's unfortunate for all of us because that means that we have to provide services and sources, resources in all different formats, all different ways, 24/7. And that's a tough thing to do. Many of our users satisfy us, and we hear this all of the time when we talk to them. I'll take what comes up first, what's easiest, whatever I need to do to get it done. And it's not just undergraduates who tell us this. The majority, there was a study published that said the majority of the British Library website visits were from search engines. So they were pushed into the British Library system, and that was 84% of their users. Now, I've been looking at worldcat.org logs. We have at least, most of our hits on worldcat.org are not from individuals coming directly to us. It's because they're being pushed in, mostly by Google, find it in a library. Now, who actually go directly to the site? You can probably guess. Librarians, booksellers, some scholars. I have some other quotes, and this is a U.S. undergraduate student, and I was talking to her. They submit diaries to us every month. Some send videos, some talk to us, and so I was talking to this young woman, age 19, and she said, in truth, I do sometimes miss the feel of a hardcover book, but it beats wasting gas to go to the library to just get a book when you can find it online with no trouble. And then she said, with Google, you are not limited. You have as much as you can pull up. And it was interesting, we found this whole concept of books continuing to come up. Books and libraries, print books. From the studies that we looked at for the Digital Information Seeker report, we pulled together some highlights. Power browsing is something that is comes up very prominently with our users. They scan chunks of information, they view first few pages, they don't do a whole lot of reading. Also this scrolling. They're short basic searches and they download content for later use. How many of you download content and then never go back to it? Yes, you're all nodding your heads. I do that too. It's sort of that hoarding behavior. I do that with food when I travel. I do that with shoes. And that's just something that we do with information as well. Again, my husband said to me last week, someday I'm going to watch you on television on one of those shows about hoarders. And, you know, I do that with information as well. When we talk to researchers, especially in the sciences, they are the most satisfied with the resources that they are available to access. The arts and humanities researchers indicated that they had some serious problems. First of all, they satisfy. They take what they can get. They're aware, all of the researchers' awareness of open access is very low. They also lack an understanding of copyright and publishers' agreements. And what came out a lot was that the faculty will say, and this came out with the repository studies that we did as well, they'll come out and say, well, we don't know what we signed. We don't know if we're allowed to give this to the library. We have no idea, and they can't find the paperwork. So no one can go, so the librarians can't help them in that regard until they get the original contracts. The library, so what's that? What we hear from the users is the websites are often hard to navigate. The library's inconvenient. They have limited hours. The distance is too far. They can only go there for physical materials. They have no idea, in many ways, that the library provides electronic resources. The big thing is libraries equal books to this day. And that comes out, and it has been coming out, as I said, since 2005. Now, the students are very confident with their information discovery skills. And I have a lot of quotes about this. This is a U.S. high school student, last year of secondary school, male, age 17. Well, I don't like pick the first one I see that comes up on Google. I try to evaluate 2 or 3 and see if there's some common things between them. Like, if 2 of them say the same thing, then that must be right. Rather than like 1 versus 2 consistent things. This is a U.S. graduate student, female, age 45. Well, I usually check. I try to test the information. If it's my judgment or also my knowledge in the subject, or I will read more to see if the information is right or wrong. I don't trust it like from the first second. And so they're trying to find out how to evaluate information. A U.S. undergraduate student, male, age 19. It's kind of like a guess. And you check to see which one works best or which one gives you the most information. It is not necessarily to see which one is more credible, because if you want credibility, you are not necessarily going to look online for it. A U.S. faculty member, a male, age 40. You know, let's say it's not even an academic context. I have to see the same conclusion reached by lots of different people in different contexts. Like, I need to see the same answer again and again. And maybe at some point that's enough time where it starts to gel to me that this probably is a good approximation of the truth. It might not be the truth, but this seems to be what a lot of people perceive as the truth. We also learned that most researchers are self-taught in their discovery services. 62% have reported that they have no formal training, and most of them are confident in their skills. We have conducted research with computer science scholars in New Zealand, and we talked to them in 1996. And so in 2011, we went back and talked to these same individuals. And it was quite interesting because they basically said what they told us in 1996 was we never learned how to find information. What we did is we talked to our colleagues, so they had that invisible college. When we talked to them today, they said we depend upon our graduate students. They know how to find information, so they tell us. Well, a study that came out of the UK indicates that the graduate students take on the patterns of their major professors. So you see this cycle that we have. I think what I'm trying to say is we need to start at a much earlier stage to get people involved in finding and also evaluating information. The frustrations, students feel that there's a lack of mobile access. They want more. And by mobile access, when we ask them what technology they could not live without, the one that comes up the most, the two, are smartphones and laptops. And it's not just for getting information, but it's also for communication. They want to communicate with people and be able to contact people at all times. And again, it's this 24/7. They also think, again, the library website's hard to find, it's inconvenient. The faculty, they access most of their information online, journals and back files. They also want this desktop access, and by desktop we mean their laptop that goes with them anywhere. The arts and humanities faculty said that they have a hard time finding non-English content, and so that was a big issue with them. A lot of the unavailable content were the back files, and that came out a lot. They also felt that there was irrelevant information in the results list when they were searching in libraries. And they also talked about the lack of specialist search engines for them. I have another quote. It's a US undergraduate student, female, age 19. She, the professor, was very direct about certain stuff and wanted me to go to the library. Of course, like the library's like a second home for me, so that's fine. Now, when you ask her what she does at the library as a second home, it's very social. But the research I needed wasn't showing up, so I was like, okay, I'm going to the internet. And I had to find quotes from books, so I just was able to go on Google book search, and find the quote I needed. And I didn't write it down that it was from the internet, so she doesn't really know. And then she laughed. She doesn't even know that it's from the internet. Another US undergraduate student, male, age 19, I don't use the library. Most students really don't anymore. I know a couple of people that live here, but they don't actually use it for books. They use it as a quiet place for the internet. And again, the books come up. The tools they use, Google, Wikipedia. How many of us use Google and Wikipedia? Yeah. I was talking to a colleague here yesterday, and we were trying to remember where another colleague had been in her previous position, and we both looked at each other and at the same time said, let's Google her. We'll find out. So we all do that. They also will use the library website and journals. They do not know that the library provides the journals for them. Okay, so the undergraduates do not know that. They use human resources, mostly their classmates, their family, relatives, friends. The graduate students also Google and Wikipedia, of course, their professors, their advisors, their mentors, and they specifically state electronic databases. Now, I was looking at a study by John Berteau, and he looked at information studies students in 2012, and 86% of them said that they use Google daily or weekly, and only 28% of them said they use the library OPAC daily or weekly. And these are our future information professionals. And so I don't think that our students and I always say, do not use library and information students as your subjects because they're an anomaly. Maybe they're not. When you look at researchers, 99.5% of them say that they use their journals. And Google, Web of Science, JSTOR comes up a lot. I keep saying I should be on the payroll for JSTOR because we get many students also talking about JSTOR. One young man told me one day that he learned from the librarian how to use JSTOR. And he said, yeah, wow, this is great. He said, every time I have a question, I go to JSTOR. And so, you know, it's sort of like, well, I have a hammer, so everything looks like a nail. And I'm going to go in that direction. Also, human resources are very, very important to researchers as well. We do know, and many of you probably know this from looking at your usage stats, people use the journals, they visit only a few minutes, very short sessions. They think that back files are difficult to access, and they all often get to these journals through Google. Now, this is some information from the current study on the digital visitors and residents with the University of Oxford and University of North Carolina, Charlotte. You'll see at the bottom we have emerging, establishing, embedding, and experiencing. We were trying to be very cute and wanted all E words. The emerging are basically last year of secondary school, first year of university college. Second, establishing are your third, fourth year of undergraduate study, embedding, postgraduate students, doctoral students, experiencing are the actual faculty, scholars, researchers. And you can see by looking at this that the major media sites were only mentioned by 26% of the emerging participants, but 50% by the establishing, and then 70% by these graduate students, postgraduate students, and then with the experiencing, the faculty, it goes down again. Wikipedia was highly referred to by the emerging, by all of them when you look at this. It drops with the experiencing by 50%. I did talk to a faculty member who said, I really don't like to admit that I look at Wikipedia or Google, but I do. You can also see that they're looking at some of the syllabi, the discipline-based sites. So when we talk to them, we're trying to find out exactly where they're going, what they're using. Face-to-face communication is still very, very important. Whenever you look, when we talk to the faculty, in comparison to the other stages, the phone and other remote forms of communication like email were very, excuse me, very important. The emerging students, it may be that they have to communicate with their families. They're away for the first time, and many of them say they Skype with their families, text. Email is only used 51% of the time with these emerging students, and you'll see how it goes up 100%. Is that because they've been assimilated into our culture in the university where everything is done by email? When we talk to them and ask them, they say, well, we use email for to talk to our faculty, our tutors, and when we asked them why they communicated with us in email, they said, well, it's more like administration with the university. They were much kinder than the screenagers told us in 2008 that email was for old people, but I think that's what they're saying. The word librarian was only mentioned once in our interviews, in our original interviews in the emerging stage. And one participant kept referring to the lady in the library. And as a researcher, I should never have done this, but I did, and I said, you mean the librarian? And he said, no, the lady in the library. So there you go. We talk a lot in our research with the digital visitors and residents about the learning black market. And basically, it's this covert online study habits that the students have. And they use Wikipedia, they don't cite it, they feel guilty about it. They tell us that their faculty, their tutors don't want them to use it. One of them said, a U.S. University student said, and she's a female, age 19, I use it kind of like, I won't cite it on my papers, but I kind of use it as a start-off line. I go there and look up general information, kind of read through it, so I get a general idea of what it is. A UK university student, female, age 19, everyone knows that you try not to use Wikipedia as a source because it is a cardinal sin. And when I ask them if they do use it, they say yes, but I say, do you cite it? Oh, no. And I said, do you ever look at the references at the end of Wikipedia articles? Oh, yes. Do you go and read those? Oh, no. Do you cite those? Oh, yes. What can we change? Well, we all know this, our OPACs. Again, I think we need to display things in different ways. Many libraries are really doing a good job of that now, and I think that's really great. Full text, you cannot have enough online content, and I can't stress that enough. This seamless discovery to delivery. Access, I think, is more important. We talk a lot about discovery. Have any of you ever had that much trouble finding something, anything that will satisfy? Someone saying yes. If you want very particular information, very specific, yes. But in general, no. And I think we really need to talk about this access to information. Mobile access is very important. Advertise. What we have found in all of our studies, that people don't know what libraries offer. They have no idea. Virtual reference services, they had no idea that Ask a Librarian meant that there was, someone said in a focus group interview, I think there's a librarian somewhere if you click on that. They do not know what we're doing. We need to provide search help at the time of need. You know, when you're on a retail site and you're on there too long, something pops up and says you need help. Why aren't we doing that? If they're on our website and they receive 0 retrievals, why aren't we there? How can we help? St. Louis University tried this. They said within the first hour they had 20 people pick up on that. We should be there where they need us. Also, think about the users at all times. We want, they like things that are familiar, easy. We should model some of our services off of the public services. My mother's in retail. She says one size fits no one. And I think that's it with libraries as well. So we have to try to hit as many people in as many different ways and formats as possible. This is a quote by Brian Matthews, and some of you may have read, he wrote a report, he's a big blogger, and it was Think Like a Startup, and he wrote that to librarians. And I think what it's all about today is relationship building, community. That's where we need to be. And I don't mean just come up and have a Facebook page, because they're not going to go there. What the University of Nevada, Reno has done is they've created personas from their special collections on Facebook and made these people come alive, and they said that, I talked to the director, and she said that they have used, people have used their special collections that have been digitized about 3 times as much as they had used it before they were on Facebook. Now, Facebook made them take down those personas because the people were dead, but they still have made a way to continue this. We should also be in Wikipedia, putting references in there, especially to our special collections. University of Washington has done this. I had dinner with an archaeology professor here in Bournemouth, and he said that the archaeologists are doing that here, going into Wikipedia and putting in citations for their students because they know that's where they're going, even though they don't tell them. Thank you again, and we'll have this online for you.